Hello, I am Radagast, at your service. So tonight's topic is Illuminati Elite NWO, redefining some concepts. It was interesting. This was the talk I was going to do all along, and then I ran into a Michael Tsarian video about. It was one of his videos. I'm going to post it. So he's doing smaller videos these days. I guess they're breakdowns of his many 2 and 3 hour talks. And this is a nice format because even though all his talks, usually once you start them, you don't want to stop them. When you're getting ready to click start on a 2 hour or 3 hour video, sometimes you can be a little hesitant. So these 15-minute ones are really helpful, I think. And in this one video, like I said, I'll put a link. Starting at the 6-minute and 40-second mark, he answers 3 questions in this video. And the last question was they wanted somebody to what does he think about the Dragon family? And he goes on to spend the next 6 minutes answering that. Michael has a very good opinion overall of the Dragon family, and I thought it was important the way he broke it up. But he also definitely mentioned, well, first of all, he says that they kind of derive from Atlantis, and he says that you can also read about these families in his Irish Origins of Civilization book and the Occult History of Ireland. And what he's saying is that the Dragon families, or the Dragon family, have certain knowledge, a certain bloodline, and a certain priestly quality to them. They're immensely ancient, and they have pharaonic connections. And he also gets into the different dragons, between like a European dragon, which has a different mythology than the friendly, benevolent, heavenly dragon of the East. So Illuminati, Elite, and NWO, redefining some concepts. So the reason why I kind of preface this with the Dragon family is we're going to have to work with the Illuminati, and maybe just a very short perspective. The Illuminati would represent what would be a Dragon family, or the Dragon families, or even the Dragon family is really in a way to correctly assess this. And although they were sovereigns or rulers or whatever the proper term was, apparently on Atlantis, if not, I don't know if they controlled all of it, but certainly controlled part of it, because there were 2 factions, kind of like the Sons of Light and the Sons of Belial, I think they said. But anyway, what we're looking at with the Illuminati is after the floods and just general civilizational convulsion caused by the end of the last ice age, and Atlantis no longer being around. As we all know, there were different. Or if you know familiar at all with Atlantic history, you know there were certain parties that went out to kind of rescue civilization. So especially as when we start looking anywhere from Ireland and then moving east, what you see after the flood is the resurrection of civilization. And this resurrection of civilization was done by the Dragon family, or the Illuminati. And as Michael tries to point out, his last words were fascinating as he talks about how these various families are. And he says, these antipathies of the world are united. We need to start getting with that idea. That was his last word when this video ended. That these antipathies, which would mean kind of the good Illuminati and the bad Illuminati, if you want to put it that right now, just to put it in simple polarized terms, that they're united. These antipathies of the world are united, And we need to start getting with that idea. He was very emphatic about, like, this is something you need to come to peace with. And so what I see is, as they are moving across from, the Ireland to the Pacific, which would be ending in China, you're gonna have this family that are bloodline related and doing different things. You can see, even if you look at Sumeria, you'll see the different gods. Okay, now I'm not saying that's the dragon family, but I'm just trying to, you see that when you have certain lines, certain bloodlines, that they have each one has certain regional controls, and they are left autonomous to control that region. And you can, even if somebody does something that is really not considered good, like not being a servant king, not taking care of the people you're supposed to take care of, even though you can imagine, again, an antipathy towards this behavior, you have to realize that this is a family that is remnants of before the flood. This is a family that rebuilt civilization after the flood. And so even though this family could be fractured, there's a connection that can't be broken. I mean, again, they go back to Atlantis, and now they're in this modern world, and they are kind of alone in who they are and who they've become. So despite the antipathy, there is still, they can't really disassociate, because there's them and there's the rest of humanity that they came in to basically rescue. And of course, during the rescue, once you build up civilization, the ones who are predisposed to abuse then use that system to abuse people. And now I'm going to also come back to my own Sophianic and Gaian roots, coming out from the Magi, who were the original mystics, the what in Greek would be called the telestic shamans. And they knew the skies, and much of their divination wasn't just astrology. It was like where the moon, how the moon rose at different points, what constellation was in, where was it touching in the constellation. Was a node that had a certain motion going through the belly of Virgo, through her knee, through the head of Leo, through the claw of Scorpio, through the stinger of Scorpio, and all these things. I mean, all these things had very significant meaning, and these are the people who brought us the Sophianic narrative. Now, whether or not these Magi were themselves of the dragon family is certainly questionable. I don't have anything definitive on that. Maybe I will at some other point. But this original core of Illuminati, in this case I'm not going to say that they're dragon family, but this core of Illuminati, who held the knowledge, the gnosis, broke off after a while. And so again, we have the exact, in this case we have a similar dynamic, but I think a little more antipathy. The light side of the Magi went on to form the mystery schools, of which the Pythagorean school was one, and the Eleusinian mysteries. And so it's just very interesting that so one branch broke off with the knowledge of Gaia being our god and her connection with the source in the galactic center, and another side decided that not only could that knowledge not be permitted to the select few, it should only be held within the Illuminati themselves, and this language would be used to exploit people. And this, later on, this kind of devolved into what we now know as the Babylonian magic thing. Obviously, there's a lot of syncretism and different things, but that system has that line in it of we'll call the Magian, a Gnostic kind of tradition. Remember, Gnostic is really a pejorative of it, meaning know-it-all. But the tradition that brought the concept of gnosis, of Sophia as wisdom, of Sophia as an aeon, a god that came to Earth to steward the anthropos, the human race. And so we have that. So we have that kind of Illuminati working. And so what happens is with the dark Illuminati, with the dark Gnostics, I'm going to call them, but still Illuminati, that's when we start getting a concept of what we probably will now call elite. That's not to say that the dragons were not actually super elite in their abilities, but it wasn't an elitism of superiority. Again, this was about a reciprocal thing where you're doing for people, and of course in the course of their life there's a coordination that enhances the output. I'm going to say productivity, but it's really about output, where there's a certain amount needed to take care of business, and then they can be surplus, and surplus can be used to put away for a rainy day, a bad harvest, can be used for trade. You have lots. You might be a very agrarian society, not a lot of metal. You trade some goods for metal or whatever. Okay, so you get the picture. So then you have the elite. Okay, so now the elite now becomes kind of a snobby ruling group and now it's not that they aren't elite, but again, when you have access to certain things that can allow you to be elite, or that other people don't have, that's kind of a fake elite. When we get into modern society, where it's not just schools, we now have the internet. I mean, you have what the internet can provide if you know what you're looking for and you're willing to take in information and then get rid of it as you need it, as you keep on refreshing what you're doing. You can become an elite knowledge without a lot of difficulty, but a lot of application. But then it's also the elite concept of an elite house builder, somebody who can always build a really good house, gets the best contractors, and produces an excellent product. If you open up the walls, you're not going to see crummy wiring because elite electricians were hired. You're going to see really good plumbing with good joints because elite plumbers were hired. Elite to me is a concept to rise to. It's a personal goal to take whatever you do and perform it at a level that you deem good for yourself. Now you might look at other people and use that as like, I like the way they work, and maybe would work with them or even just work by copying. But at any time, you're never competing with any other person. You always use other people to set your own goal, and then you compete with yourself to achieve your own goal. And this self-enrichment, whatever you're doing, and you should be good at. I mean, obviously, we all have talents. So you pick something you're good at, and then you take what you're good at. You take a craft and start making it an art. Now you're in the elite. So elite. So that's why I'm saying we're redefining some concepts. Elite is something really, as far as the concept of what's elite, and any true elite will recognize this kind of elite. Like, in other words, let's say we're talking about elite. Let's take somebody of the dragon family, okay? Let's pick them. And they're looking out to the people who do not have everything. They will still be able to look out there and see people who are being the best they can and would recognize them as elite, and probably those would be the people that they would want to dialogue. Because at the soul level, we can be equal, but the thing is, are we all bringing our best game? And a good experience on life, however the system is based on high quality people at every level. No matter what it is, you have the cream, and cream is an aspiration of people. And when you have that kind of aspiration to be an artist, to really take what you do as an outpouring of who you are, and of course that outpouring should come from a person who has a sense of sovereignty, a sense of dignity. So whatever work that you put out shows that kind of sovereign dignity that you would not allow anything to escape your hands that was not the best product. Now, this isn't getting perfect and getting crazy, but at any time you undertake any task, you do it to the best of your ability, and now you're working at an elite level. And at anything you do, some days you're more brilliant than other. But if you, on your days that you'd say, oh boy, I'm not feeling that good, you still bring your best. Now, it might not be the best you've ever done, but you bring your best. Again, that's the elite thing. You can't ask any more of yourself than to give your best, from your honest best on any given day, and not worry about, I was better yesterday. Yeah, well, you were better, so you produced better. That's the natural, wave and ebb and flow. But it's all in the attitude. And if you think like an elite person, if you want to be an elite person, you can be an elite person, and other elites will recognize you immediately. It can't be, because elites are looking for. Matter of fact, I have a little saying: misery loves company, wisdom has to look for it. And similarly, elites have to look for each other, because there's a certain performance level that wants to be had by people who operate at that level, and people operating at lesser levels have their use, but it's for where a less, like an average thing. Again, there's Eleanor Roosevelt, an elite, had a saying about large minds or great minds discuss ideas and concepts, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. And so in a similar thing, when you're looking to have a discussion, and you don't want it to be necessarily about people, and rather than the events, because events can be good, but around events are the concepts of why events happen, and that is really, the concept is always where everything is really happening. An event, well, I mean, there are certain events that just pop out and we're reacting to them, but still, even how they're reported and how we interpret them have a lot to do how we see them conceptually. And unless we kind of live more often at a conceptual level, events will be things we'll be immersed in, rather than being able to look at them and see them for what they are. Now we come to the NWO, the New World Order. Okay, now I believe that the New World Order kind of has two parts. There's the New World Order that we don't like. I call that the brand name, NWOTM, trademarked. Okay, and this would be, Agenda 21, the super surveillance, not for the benevolence that actually could, if we all had, there's a benevolent thing to surveillance, but it would have to have a benevolent administration, or people managing that, for it to be the eyes on the world that it could be for everybody. So then you have, so you have a New World Order. Now you have the current World Order, which is an armpit. It's the armpit World Order. It's run by complete maniacs, or the current center of gravity has been sitting with the Western world, the Anglo-American, and then of course Franco. But the big one is really the Five Eyes, Anglo-American and the other Commonwealths, and that's really where the main stink is coming from these days. So that agenda is the NWO agenda, and then of course you have all these other little countries who may be run by a good guy, or just the typical sociopaths that want those kind of spaces, and they'll just do anything to be with the prevailing wind. Well, the wind is changing, that's for sure. So now you're going to see a lot of little countries doing different things, because the center of gravity is moving into Asia, and will have ramifications. I mean, it's moving, and we see it everywhere. The Greek thing is a sign of it, because of how they can connect into a Russia, because the Russian alphabet derives from the Greek alphabet, and the Eastern Orthodox Church of Russia comes from Greece. It's the Orthodox Church of Greece, Russian style. So they have this tie, and then of course we know that China has Russia's financial back in hard times. So if Russia wants to be benevolent to Greece, they can stretch out, because they know that China will cover them if that covering Greece hurts them at all. So and if China is the new place that's the new center of gravity, and so we have the armpit order. We do actually need a new order in the world. Coordination. Order is coordination. Order is organization. And from organization, you get organisms. And having the world run like an organism would make a lot of sense, because it's really one place. And we say, oh, what about different countries? Well, just like, and once again, my basis for anything organic and natural is an organism. Rather than base it on an amoeba, I base it on the human body. So you have this enclosed organism, but you have brain, a heart, liver. You have all these differentiations. You have muscles. You have the veins. I mean, you have all these different systems, but they're all coordinated, and that's why the body works. It would not. All these different systems would not be able to work as one unless it had a coordination, and this coordination works. It's not like the brain does not run the show like people think it does. Especially the thinking brain that we identify with. It is the mammalian and reptilian brain that really runs the show on a day-to-day basis, and especially around the emotionality. That's the mammalian brain, and around the more the heavy sexuality is a kind of a combination of mammalian, because mammalians are horny, and a more reptilian, dark, deeper energy, more of a going down, that kind of energy, more going down than rising. And the other thing is, so we have the synthetic NWO, the brand name, which we don't want. It's as toxic as any other brand put out by these corporations. But we certainly need to get out of armpit world. And so we do need some kind of order for the world to be coordinated through, and so we can be one happy family of coordination. And so the idea is sometimes people might not be able to parse what they mean and use a term like New World Order, and it's important not to immediately jump to conclusions that this is Agenda 21 and this is the big slam down, and this is the FEMA camps and and eradication of populations. That's the brand NWO. That's the cabal brand. But then there's another thing that's currently happening. It's shaping up, and it is going to be a world order of some type. And it's most important by us rising to our sovereignty and elite level performance that this order is reflected in our ability to participate in it at an elite level by being our own elite. So, kind of closing up on, so the Illuminati in many ways represents a movement from Atlantis. Now again, this is the real Illuminati and not the different things, because that doesn't, I don't know where to start now that I broke up my sentence. The Illuminati there's an Illuminati brand, okay, that gets thrown at us. All right, the Illuminati. And what it is about these brands, whether it's Illuminati, Elite, or NWO, they are because we put them as dark, they're in the shadows. And because they're in the shadow, they're amorphous. They're not, what they are is not even remotely clear, like anything that's not in good light. So the Illuminati becomes like a boogeyman. It's just like, we use the term so loosely that it actually has almost no meaning. Elite, to me, elite isn't a designation. We know what we mean by elite, but I don't want elite to mean them. I want elite to mean what it means, and I'd like us to be elite, because it's within our capacity. You know, and you say, well, we don't have this, we don't have that. It's not about, it's what you have here. It's what you have with doing the best with what you have is elite behavior. Okay, it's not, if I had this, if I had that, I'd be elite. No, you can make yourself elite by your own will. So, so Illuminati, elite, NWO, these things are in the shadow, and because they're in the shadow and because they're indistinct, the way we use them, even when we ask questions, well, is this the Illuminati behind it? Is this the cabal? Oh, is this the elite? And we use these terms, and they're not very clear. And one of the reasons they're not clear is because we don't have all the information. There's a certain fear factor. So all of this just lends to a shadow and lack of clarity. And by redefining Illuminati, by realizing the Illuminati traditionally included a benevolent wave from Atlantis across the Eurasian continent, starting in Europe, starting in the Isles, and just moving its way across and obviously going down into the Fertile Crescent at some level of influence. So by doing that, we can kind of, oh, Illuminati isn't all bad. And as Michael Tsarian says, that these people of this world are united, and we need to start getting with that idea. So, but when you realize the Illuminati also is part of something that was very bright and can be bright again, it kind of, so now what we want to know is, okay, which are like kind of the organic Illuminati, and which are kind of like the brand name villain Illuminati. And that's what we've kind of done. We've turned them into like villains, like they're, or just sneering psychopaths. And this can apply. It is legitimate, but when you're talking about a group, and especially a family, an ancient family that knows itself for at least 13,000 years, we're getting into a level that would be kind of hard for us to understand. And what would be hard for us to understand is that unity of being the same family. And even if they're having people doing horrendous things, it's like we came here together. We all came here. We're different. And, it's just, it's like crazy to think, for us to think that they're going to break family bonds because some of them behave really poorly. So the time has actually come to rein them in. And a big part of reining them in also has to do with our consciousness of, it becomes a lot easier when everybody says you got to go. And then, the police and military all start, the people are saying enough is enough already, and then things start to happen. But they don't start to happen while you suffer their rule. So this is about taking back our power. First of all, knowing that within the Illuminati we actually have allies. Knowing that the elite is something that we can be ourselves, and we should stop making it a dirty word and start making it actually something to aspire to for ourselves. For those of us who want to do that, for those who say, hey, something, I just like to live a little easier, it's all good. This is all about finding self levels and everybody looking out for the other. It's always looking out. This is not about, the elite, just to take it. No. That is not what elite is about. Elite is about excellent performance, and any performance doing anything should always be about serving the whole, because you're living in an organism. I better wrap this up. So I'm trying to get the organic things. First of all, take the boogeyman, take the darkness, bring some clarity into things that reside in the dark, the Illuminati, elite, and NWO. Make the Illuminati not all bad, but actually part ally. Realizing elite is something that anybody trying to be at the best of their performance will want to be. NWO, again, a boogeyman, Agenda 21. Yeah, these are sick Kabbalists. These people want to wreck the place and have it all to themselves. But it is falling apart, and it's what's antagonistic to it, and why they can't survive and why they can't get nourishment is there is another world order organically growing up that is just basically making that new world order irrelevant. And I think I might have covered what I need to do. It was just redefining the concepts and bringing some light, the light of our consciousness, the light of understanding, because it's through understanding, comprehension, that we will be able to find the love that we need to do this journey together. And when I mean together, I mean all of us. We, the people, and the people who have actually brought us the civilization that we now see in decline due to managerial problems. But this is all very rectifiable, and I think it's being rectified as I speak. So that's how I guess I'll close it. Thank you for listening. Before all else, I see the God within you.